T-minus 10, 9, 8,
The clock is operating. We're underway.
Tranquility Base here. Endeavour, go at throttle.
Anousheh Ansari, die 40-jährige Iranerin, hat sich den Ausflug ins All mit 16 Millionen Euro zwar teuer erkauft, aber die in den USA lebende Geschäftsfrau ist damit die wohl erste Weltraumtouristin aller Zeiten. 3 Männer hatten bereits für ihren Flug Touristentickets gelöst. Ansari und ihre Ankunft auf der internationalen Raumstation.
Station-keeping maneuver just about 132 meters behind the aft port of these.
Heute Morgen um 7 Uhr mitteleuropäischer Sommerzeit näherte sich die russische Sojus-Kapsel der internationalen Raumstation ISS. Genau im Zeitplan begann dann das Andocken. Das Manöver wird elektronisch gesteuert und verläuft automatisch.
Over the course of the ensuing 3 hours or 2 orbits of the Earth before the hatches are opened later today. Flight controllers now standing by for contact and capture of the International Space Station.
Um exakt 7:21 Uhr war die Raumkapsel mit der ISS verbunden. Die russischen Techniker und Ingenieure waren mehr als zufrieden.
Ich bin sehr erfreut darüber, dass wir uns hier in diesem Konferenzraum treffen und sehen. Wir sind gerade Zeugen geworden eines erfolgreichen Unlock-Prozesses und das ist ein Meilenstein auf der Entwicklung, in der Entwicklung unseres gemeinsamen Raumerkundungsprogramms. Ich gratuliere allen. Zunächst einmal den Spezialisten und Fachleuten, die sich darum gekümmert haben, dass die Operation reibungslos laufen konnte. Wir haben vor 2 Tagen gesehen, dass der Abschuss gut verlaufen ist, der Start. Und in 3 Stunden gibt es dann 3 weitere Mitglieder an der Raumstation.
Here comes the first one. Okay, we see Michael Tyrion.
Soyuz Commander Mikhail Tyrion first on board.
Rund 350 Kilometer über der Erde wurden die 3 Neuankömmlinge mit der ersten Weltraumtouristin Anousheh Ansari in der Raumstation begrüßt.
Congratulations from the bottom of our hearts with the family reunion. We wish you most successful work.
And the new commander of the International Space Station, Mike Lopez Alegria, finally on board.
Everybody wants to congratulate you.
Ja, vielleicht ist die Begeisterung auch so groß, weil es mit einer Frau an Bord ist.
Richtig, nach
Wäre ja
Zeit.
auch nachvollziehbar. Ja. Wir wollen noch mal gerade über die Frau Ansari sprechen, weil es Meldungen gibt, das sei gar nicht die erste Touristin.
Ja, richtig. Es gibt Meldungen, dass eine Engländerin, und das stimmt auch, im Mai 1991 Frau Sherman an Bord der Mir-Station gegangen ist. Und die ist rausgesucht worden aus einem großen Preisausschreiben von 13.000 Bewerbern. Und das wurde bezahlt von englischen Firmen und die Sowjetunion hat natürlich auch was beigesteuert, sodass die praktisch schon die erste Touristin war. Sie hat einige wissenschaftliche Experimente durchgeführt, aber sie war nicht eigentlich ein Wissenschaftsastronaut oder ein professioneller Astronaut. Und da kann man streiten, wenn man will, weil jetzt die Iranerin ja auch einige Experimente oben durchführt.
Wir blicken auf eine erfolgreiche Woche zurück. Schönen guten Abend, meine Damen und Herren, zu Alltag. Das sagen zumindest NASA, ESA, DLR und auch die russische Raumfahrtagentur. Denn 3 Sachen haben gleich diese Woche geklappt. Zum einen, der Ausbau der ISS funktioniert prima, das geht voran. Zum zweiten, die Landung der Atlantis hat problemlos geklappt. Und auch der Start der Sojus mit der Weltraumtouristin Ansari. Ja, und vor diesem Hintergrund gab es heute ein kleines Resümee. Die Hälfte ist so ungefähr hinter uns von der Mission, an der Thomas Reiter mitmacht. Die wird ja bis etwa 27. 28. Dezember gehen. Deswegen hat man heute in Köln-Porz bei der DLR ein Resümee gezogen. Genauer gesagt war man für eine Schalte zur zum EAC gegangen. Das ist das Trainingszentrum in Köln-Porz. Und dort war Janet Favito heute Morgen für uns und hat sich diese Schalte mit angeschaut. Das Europäische Astronautenzentrum EAC in Köln. Hier werden die ESA-Astronauten auf die Strapazen ihrer Weltraummissionen vorbereitet. Auch Thomas Reiter, der jetzt auf der ISS ist, hat hier seine Trainingseinheiten absolviert. Grund genug, heute zu einer Schalte mit Thomas Reiter einzuladen. Mit dem bisherigen Verlauf der Mission und der Arbeit von ihm ist man sehr zufrieden.
Das ist ein ganz hervorragender Verlauf. Das ist ein großer Schritt auch für die zukünftigen Missionen. Insofern ist es also rundum positiv und Herr Reiter leistet eine hervorragende Arbeit.
Begrüßt wurde Thomas Reiter von seinem Kollegen Reinhold Ewald.
Hallo Thomas, von deiner Heimatbasis EAC, from your homebase EAC.
Auf die Frage, was ihn an seiner Mission am meisten beeindruckt habe, antwortete Reiter:
Naja, ich denke, dass die Größe der Station sehr beeindruckend ist. Das sind fast 60 Meter. Mit dem Node 2, der von Paolo Nespoli mit hier oben installiert wird, und dann dem Columbus-Modul, das von Hans Schlegel installiert wird, wird also die Station noch mal um einiges größer werden. Und ich denke, das ist schon ein überwältigendes Gefühl, wenn man sieht, wie groß eigentlich diese Raumstation ist und dann natürlich auch die Aufgaben, die dann auf uns warten werden, die eine große Herausforderung darstellen.
Zu diesen Aufgaben gehören neben der aktuellen Mission Astrolab 3 weitere Weltraummissionen zur ISS. Mit einer davon wird Ende nächsten Jahres der deutsche Astronaut Hans Schlegel starten. Seine aus europäischer Sicht wertvollste Fracht wird das Forschungslabor Columbus sein. Zuvor transportiert der italienische Astronaut Paolo Nespoli den für die Installation des Columbus-Moduls notwendigen sogenannten Verbindungsknoten Nummer 2 zur ISS.
Der Verbindungsknoten ist ein Modul, das ungefähr die Größe eines Kleinbusses hat. Das charakteristische Merkmal sind seine Verbindungsmöglichkeiten, sodass es rundum mit anderen Modulen angebaut werden kann. Im Wesentlichen ermöglicht es so die Vergrößerung der Station. Auf diese Weise können auch die japanischen und europäischen Module mit der ISS verbunden werden. Ohne diesen Verbindungsknoten wäre das nicht möglich.
Spätestens bis 2010 soll die ISS fertiggestellt sein. Bis dahin bleibt also noch viel zu tun für die ESA-Astronauten und das Deutsche Zentrum für Luft- und Raumfahrt. Ja, viel zu tun. Wir werden in den nächsten Monaten verfolgen, natürlich hier auch bei Phoenix, wie diese Arbeiten vorangehen. Zunächst aber noch mal der Blick zurück, auch von Anatol Johansen. Schönen guten Abend.
Ja, und
ich fürchte, die alle werden nicht auf uns hören, aber sagen Sie, ob Sie zufrieden sind bisher mit der Mission?
Doch, man muss zufrieden sein, weil die ganzen Aufgaben, die man sich vorgenommen hatte, die waren äußerst komplex und schwierig und man konnte eigentlich nicht damit rechnen, dass alles so reibungslos vor sich geht. Und wir haben gesehen, bei den Außenbautätigkeiten, die sind zum Teil sogar schneller absolviert worden, als man das unter Wasser probiert hatte. Und die NASA war selbst überrascht und sie hat sich ja jetzt auch sehr positiv geäußert. Also der Manager der Shuttle-Programme hat gesagt, eine der kompliziertesten Missionen, die wir je geflogen haben, ist so außergewöhnlich gut geklappt. Und der Raumschiffkommandant selber hat gesagt, Atlantis was a terrific ship, no problem at all. Also ein hervorragendes Raumschiff, nicht die kleinsten Probleme. Und der Chef der NASA selbst hat gesagt, ja, das war so gut, dass wir jetzt doch zuversichtlich sind, dass wir bis Ende des Jahrzehnts, also bis 2010, die Station vollständig zusammengebaut kriegen.
Es lässt ein bisschen vergessen, dass auch Herrn Griffin ein bisschen der Herzschlag angestiegen ist zu bestimmten Phasen. Wir haben Verzögerungen gehabt. Ist das, was wir jetzt als Status quo, als Zwischenstand vermelden können, denn einer, der dem Zeitplan einigermaßen entspricht?
Es entspricht in etwa dem Zeitplan. Die Einlassung ist also, dass man am 14. Dezember wieder starten will. Aber die Mannschaft im Cape bemüht sich, das vorzuziehen, dass man das vielleicht auf den 7. Dezember kriegt, damit nicht die ganze Mannschaft während der Weihnachtstage an Bord sein muss, um die Dinge oben zu regeln.
Im Oktober 2007, wenn Hans Schlegel in den Weltraum startet, wird er Aufgaben übernehmen, und zwar vor allen Dingen Aufgaben im Zusammenhang mit Columbus.
Richtig, er wird also den Einbau von Columbus überwachen. Er kann das natürlich nicht alleine machen, da ist seine Mannschaft mit dabei und auch die Stammbemannschaft der ISS wird dabei sein. Aber das wird seine Hauptaufgabe sein und man muss das ja dann auch verkabeln und vernetzen und computermäßig anbinden. Das wird also eine sehr, sehr schwierige Angelegenheit.
Jetzt müssen wir vielleicht den Zuschauern, die leider nicht regelmäßig bei uns in den Alltag reinschauen, kurz mal sagen, was ist Columbus? Was macht das zu so einem wichtigen Meilenstein in der Weltraumforschung?
Also Columbus wird praktisch die europäische Repräsentanz auf der Station sein. Das ist eine Art, ich will es mal primitiv sagen, eine große Konservendose, etwa 6, 7 Meter lang, Durchmesser 5 Meter. Eingerichtet mit vielerlei Labors und Experimenten. Und sie wird 3 Astronauten Platz bieten und wird als permanenter Teil in die Station eingebaut, genauso wie vorher amerikanische und russische Module, wie es heißt, eingebaut wurden. Das ist zwar nicht so groß wie die Amerikaner oder Russen, aber es ist doch ein substanzieller Platz, an dem man arbeiten kann.
Ist das richtig, dass Columbus, wenn es auch nicht so groß ist, aber das modernste wissenschaftliche Laboratorium dann im Weltraum sein wird?
Ja, das wird behauptet und das ist auch einleuchtend, weil es ja praktisch das Letzte ist, was reingebaut wurde und die deutsche Seite ist relativ gut in der Schwerelosigkeitsforschung und Herr Wittig, der Chef des Deutschen Zentrums für Luft- und Raumfahrt, hat es auch noch mal herausgehoben und hat auch gesagt, also in der Robotik sind wir sehr gut. Ich darf mal pro domo sagen, wir hatten ja darüber auch schon berichtet im Alltag vor einigen Tagen oder 1, 2 Wochen. Und auch in den biomedizinischen Dingen wären wir sehr gut und mit an der Weltspitze. Aber das sind nur 2 Bereiche. Und auch in der Materialforschung und so in der Schwerelosigkeit ist Deutschland und Europa eigentlich ganz gut.
Also wir können zusammenfassen, Resümee, dieser erste Teil der Mission hat hervorragend funktioniert. Was kommt da jetzt in den nächsten 3 Monaten noch auf uns zu, besser gesagt auf die Astronauten zu, auf die Beteiligten NASA, ESA, DLR?
Naja, man wird in erster Linie, das ist nicht so furchtbar spektakulär, die Versuchsreihen, die jetzt schon laufen, weitermachen im medizinischen Bereich, im technischen Bereich und große spektakuläre Dinge also werden nicht mehr passieren, weil bis zum Dezember wird kein Shuttle mehr kommen und jetzt kommt nur noch der Rückflug der alten Mannschaft und dann wird es einigermaßen ruhig vor sich gehen und die Astronauten sind ganz froh, weil Reiter hat jetzt auch gesagt, wir haben 14 Tage durchgearbeitet, ohne Wochenende, ohne alles und wenn jetzt unsere Besucher wieder weggeht, dann kommen wir langsam wieder zur Routine und können auch wissenschaftlich mehr arbeiten.
30 seconds.
This is Mission Control Houston. Although the control room here in Houston is not expecting to have good KU antenna band coverage through the tracking and data relay satellite system for the undocking, we do hope to bring you some video of the undocking routed from the control center outside of Moscow, which is going to be downlinked through the Russian ground stations. We'll stand by to receive some of that video as it's available.
And the indicators illuminated, hooks retracted, latches retracted. 0050, command for undocking.
Standing by for the commanding for undocking. Now 3 minutes 20 seconds to undock. All systems looking good, both the Soyuz and the International Space Station in a free drift mode. No thrusters affecting their orientation relative to one another or the Earth. And both the hooks and latches holding the Soyuz spacecraft to the space station docking port, the Earth-facing docking port of the Zarya control module, have been released.
The indicators are not illuminated, and we have got the program connected.
And the visiting vehicle officer reports that the undocking command has been sent to the spacecraft. Now 2 minutes and 27 seconds to undocking. These are live downlink television pictures from the Soyuz.
GSO 1-2. Karate, this is Moscow. Yes. If possible, check the interface status. Yes, will do.
Yes. 2 minutes to undocking. Commander Paul Vinogradov and Flight Engineer Jeff Williams ready to begin their return trip home to Earth after 6 months on orbit. One minute to undocking. The visiting vehicle officer here reports 1 millimeter of separation.
Mechanical connect indicator is not illuminated.
Fifteen seconds to undocking. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This command should be later.
Undock.
And
Visiting vehicle officer reports separation confirmed.
good back out.
4:53 p.m. Central Time.
Anusha, are you monitoring?
Again, these are live television views from the camera on the Soyuz spacecraft as it undocks from the Zarya control module Earth-facing docking port.
Copy.
Commander Paul Vinogradov at the controls with help from Flight Engineer Jeff Williams. Also aboard Anusha Ansari, a spaceflight participant who's been on board the space station since September the 20th. The first such female visitor to the space station outpost on a commercial contract.
ALVK is off. The probe selected. The probe 1. We are observing the station and backing out nominally. All right, guys. Anusha, you are being filmed, so you can wave.
Auf Wiedersehen, Thomas.
Bye, Thomas.
Отхода.
2 minutes into the separation. The thrusters are operating. We're holding the attitude.
Pavel Vinograd reporting that the Soyuz thruster is working well as they continue to hold attitude or orientation relative to the station. Jeff Williams also aboard the Soyuz bidding a farewell to Tomas Ryder, who remains aboard the International Space Station with the Expedition 14 crew, Mike Lopez Alegria and Mikhail Turin.
Send us plenty of pictures of us and the Soyuz.
Auf Wiedersehen, Thomas. Auf Wiedersehen, Jeff. Alles Gute. Да, alles gut. 10 секунд, 5 секунд до включения. Ага. Есть включение СКД.
We have SKD, DPO, copy.
Ой, ДПО, господи. ДПО. Конечно, ДПО.
I mean DPO, of course.
Есть выключение.
Deactivation, copy. 588 for propeller.
The visiting vehicle officer here in the Houston control room reports to the flight director that the separation burn is complete.
I have 588. KDU parameters 171.
So your spacecraft now beginning to separate from the International Space Station at a more rapid rate.
18.9. Parameters nominal. Copy.
Так, Леш, мы работаем по стратегическому.
Losha, we are working per page 84.
Значит, вот эти заключительные операции.
The final ops, no, not yet.
То есть мы идем на помощь.
Yes, I understand.
Ждем тихую аварию, правильно?
Separation maneuver was an automated 15-second burn using 2 of the thrusters on the Soyuz spacecraft.
And radio link.
Принято.
And after that, not clear.
Ну, красиво смотрится станция.
The station looks beautiful. And also release the transmit button after undocking. And use your headset. And remember to take all the medication you're supposed to take. Thanks for the reminder.
And this is Mission Control, Houston, continuing to watch live downlink television from the space, from the Soyuz spacecraft just outside the International Space Station following today's undocking.
Karate, this is Moscow. Go ahead.
Karate, отвечаю.
Undocking occurring on time at 4:53 p.m. Central Time. Separation burn of the Soyuz's engines occurring on time at 4:56 p.m. Central. Spacecraft now separating. The crew aboard the Soyuz reporting that the space station looks beautiful.
Go to select format 41 if you have JICA on.
Our coverage of the undocking officially scheduled to end at the top of the hour here, but because we're getting good television pictures, we'll go ahead and stay with this until we've lost the picture.
Принято, выполняем.
And the visiting vehicle officer here in the flight control room reports to the flight director that we're 1 minute away from the module separation.
Carrot, this is MC Moscow. Carrot, this is MCC Moscow. Carrot, MCC Moscow, go ahead and provide your voice commentary of your actions if you can hear us, or if you cannot, go ahead anyway.
And the visiting vehicle officer reports that he has confirmation of a good module separation on time.
We have separation. Everything is in order on board. Everything is proceeding per the timeline. We're ready to execute the next command. You're at MCC Moscow.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're receiving live television now from the landing site area in the Kazakh steppes near the small town of Arkalyk. This is coming to us from a specially outfitted all-terrain vehicle that has a camera and a satellite phone mounted onto it. Ground crews there waiting for the arrival of the Soyuz spacecraft and its precious cargo of Commander Pavel Vinogradov, Flight Engineer Jeff Williams, and
Yes, we are. Wonderful.
and spaceflight participant Anousheh Ansari. Meanwhile, aircraft circling the general area of the planned landing site, ready to touch down and provide immediate assistance to the crew in opening the hatches and extricating the crew from their descent module. Now 22 minutes from landing. Again, this landing scheduled to occur at 8:13 p.m. Central Time, or about 7:13 Kazakh time, which will be just about 15 minutes before sunrise. Meanwhile, this is a live view from inside the Mission Control Center in Kolob outside of Moscow, as flight controllers there continue to monitor the progress of the Soyuz crew and the spacecraft. This is Mission Control Houston, now just under 20 minutes from the planned touchdown on the Kazakh steppes. We are hoping to get some live television pictures from this special camera system of the reentry track of the Soyuz as it arrives in the area of the landing site. So far everything continuing to go exactly according to plan. In about 3 minutes, the crew aboard the Soyuz should begin experiencing the maximum gravity load that they will throughout the descent. And then just about a minute after that, the first of the 2 parachutes, the drogue chute, will open, beginning to slow the descent module's speed as it continues to come down. A larger chute then will open next to further slow the descent. And verifying that this video we are receiving shows the track of the Soyuz spacecraft as it is heading down through the atmosphere toward the landing site just to the northeast of the small town of Arkelik in the Kazakhstan steppes. Again, these videos coming to us from a specially outfitted all-terrain vehicle in the area of the landing site that has a satellite phone and video camera.
Миш, как слышно вас в СГ-1? Да вот я слышу.
Mikhail, how would you read it in SG-1?
Слышу.
Yes, I see the push button is activated, but I can't hear the words. Now I hear you.
Что такое со связью?
And here's a good look at the plasma trail of the Soyuz as the descent module experiences the heating of reentry.
Миш, вопрос такой. Спуск удалось?
Misha, did you manage to take the video of the descent? Yes, very good recording, very good. Do you read me? Yes, I read you out and clear. Thank you.
Meanwhile, aboard the International Space Station, Flight Engineer Mikhail Turin reporting that he did manage to capture the unique vantage of the International Space Station as the plasma trail of the Soyuz spacecraft was displayed beneath the International Space Station's 220-mile high orbit. As we continue to watch the same view from the ground in the area of Arkelik. "16 minutes to touchdown."
3, copy.
Soyuz crew should be experiencing maximum G loading about now. On the landing site, the red bullseye there in the center of Kazakhstan steppes, just to the northeast of the small town of Arkelik. A fleet of helicopters circling the area, waiting the final determination of the touchdown spot so that they can bring crew and equipment there to help the crew open hatches and exit the vehicle following a successful landing. Now 15 minutes from touchdown. And this is a live picture from inside the Mission Control Center in Korolev outside of Moscow, where flight controllers are following the progress of the Soyuz and the track over the Kazakh steppes as it nears the landing site. Now 14 minutes from touchdown.
MCC Moscow ISS. Go ahead, Misha. Well, while making a recording, I was watching the monitor, monitoring the process, separation, everything else, how everything was bringing up. I was looking at the monitor, it looked fine. Now I'm trying to replay it. It doesn't work out. It looks like the camera has a life of its own. It's not responding to any commands. It's beeping. It's showing a blue screen. It's not responding to my attempts to either rewind or play the recording. It's malfunctioning. I would try to double check how the recording worked. I can't even rewind it so far though. Misha, we're going to change out the headset for Boris, and he wants to talk to you. Okay, that's fine.
Houston, Alpha, space to ground 1.
Alpha, we're on space to ground 1.
We've got about 2 minutes of pretty spectacular video to show you from the entry interface of the Soyuz and its components at this point. It's about, as I said, 2 minutes, and I don't know how you want to work that on this pass with the video that you wanted to ship up. Tell me how'd you like to try it.
Okay, we just connected with OCA for you. We had some pictures of that re-entry from the ground, and we'll work a plan up to pull that video down shortly.
Okay, just tell me when to hit play.
This is Mission Control Houston, now 10 minutes to touchdown.
Has been confirmed and observed from the ground. Confirmed and observed from the ground.
That's great news, Hal. Thanks.
And spacecraft communicator Capcom Hal Getzelman reporting to Mike Lopez Alegria aboard the space station that they have confirmation from the ground that they can see the vehicle as it begins its final descent. Parachutes confirmed open from the ground. Looking forward to a landing at 8:13 p.m. Central Time near Arkelik on the Kazakhstan steppes.
Go ahead.
Lopez Alegría also reporting that they had some fairly spectacular photography using video cameras on the International Space Station to record the separation of the different modules of the Soyuz prior to the descent module flying on its own with the crew inside.
Add anything to what you said earlier?
Commander Paul Vinogradov, Flight Engineer Jeff Williams, and spaceflight participant Anusha Ansari, now 8 minutes 48 seconds from touchdown.
I can repeat. While we were making a recording with a video camera, there were some interruptions. The camera was beeping, and the picture on the monitor was disappearing for a moment or two and was replaced by some blue background. At a certain point, this blue background has a statement saying is basically cleaning the cassette videotape. Then again, the camera would beep and have a blue background on the monitor. Then sometimes it would start recording all by itself. Looked like it.
At
The re-entry at the moment of...
This is Mission Control Houston, once again receiving downlink.
I saw it all.
Receiving live television from a modified all-terrain vehicle that is now heading for the landing site.
I think we did make...
Still 7.5 minutes from touchdown, but the vehicle's getting positioned to help with the extrication of this Soyuz and Expedition 13 crew members.
Rewind, it wouldn't forward, it wouldn't play. All we get is the blue background on the screen and no response to getting turned on or off. I'll try to turn it off and turn it back on one more time. Mikhail? Mikhail, do you copy? Yes. We need to make sure we are able to eject this tape out of the camera. We need to save this tape, and then we'll figure out what to do next. Yes, I can pull it out of the camera, and we need to make sure there is a recording. Well, sometimes the camera wouldn't release the tape either.
This is Mission Control Houston. The visiting vehicle officer reports a good ground track of the spacecraft as it continues toward the landing site northeast of Arkelik. Altitude approximately 9,000 feet or 3,400 meters. Ground support crews continuing their progress as they move closer to the landing site as the vehicle continues on the planned track. Five minutes from touchdown. 4 minutes to touchdown. This is Mission Control Houston, now 2 minutes 40 seconds away from touchdown. We have confirmation that helicopters in the area of the landing site have a visual of the spacecraft as it continues its descent. Parachutes are open and it is on track. Altitude under 1.5 kilometers or about 5,000 feet. 1 minute, 20 seconds to touchdown. Visiting vehicle officer reports altitude 1,000 meters, 3,200 feet. "30 seconds to touchdown. "15 seconds. 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Should be touchdown of the Soyuz spacecraft carrying Paul Vinogradov, Jeff Williams, and spaceflight participant Anousheh Ansari on the Kazakhstan steps. Awaiting confirmation. And the visiting vehicle officer here in Mission Control reports that we have confirmation of a good landing of the Soyuz spacecraft with Paul Vinogradov, Jeff Williams, and Anousheh Ansari on board. And so the Soyuz spacecraft carrying the Expedition 13 crew and visiting spaceflight participant Anousheh Ansari now touches down at the appointed landing site on the Kazakh steppes about 50 miles to the northeast of Arkelik. And the visiting vehicle officer relaying the word from the Mission Control Center in Kordov that we have had a nominal landing. The capsule is at its expected orientation on its side. Ground crews and helicopters heading for the landing site where they will be able to help extricate the crew after opening the hatch. Paul Vinogradov and Jeff Williams completing a 6-month trip to the International Space Station.
Capsules on its side.
We're ready to get in the picture? Yes.
Okay, Al, thanks very much.
And spacecraft communicator Hal Gitzelman reporting to the crew on board the International Space Station now, the Expedition 14 crew, Commander Mike Lopez Alegria, Flight Engineer Mikhail Turan, and former Expedition 13 crew member, now Expedition 14 crew member Tomas Ryder, learning that their comrades are down safely on the Kazakh steppes. Landing occurring just about 15 minutes before sunrise. As we continue to see live video from the vehicle, one of the vehicles that is heading toward the landing site.
Нет, 500 метров. Прошу слева. Да так и вставай.
We could hear the voices. Here they are, here they are. Okay, very good. Congratulations. All those guys were happy for the Expedition 13 crew. And we, well, thank you. Thank you, congrats to you, and a lot of work is awaiting you ahead. And now, have a good rest, and talk to you later. Enjoy your flight. Copy. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a very long but very fruitful day. Thank you all. Have a good rest. Enjoy your flight.
Left. Be careful. Careful.
все, мы отлично стоим. Да, да.
We need to get closer. No, I think we're good.
Все, мы пошли работать, некогда.
It's fine.
Да?
We need to get going.
Нет, пока не вижу. Но они сейчас спускаются все уже. Люди уже пошли кескать. К аппарату. Короче, все, вырубаемся.
We're off right now. People are going to the descent module.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're standing by to receive live television pictures from the Kazakh steppes. Right now continuing to see the view from the balcony of the Mission Control Center in Kharkov outside of Moscow. Now here's a live view of the Soyuz spacecraft and the Support teams that have gathered around it and are beginning to work with the hatch opening for the crew. Again, Expedition 13 Commander Paul Vinogradov and Flight Engineer and International Space Station Science Officer Jeff Williams completing their 6-month stay aboard the International Space Station with a landing on the Kazakh steppes at 8:13 p.m. Central Time, just 15 minutes before sunrise in Kazakhstan, winding up a mission with an unofficial duration of 182 days, 22 hours, and 43 minutes. All of the Soyuz systems performed exactly as expected during the undocking, re-entry, separation of the various segments of the vehicle and the descent modules. Parachutes opened on time as planned, and it set down to a soft landing on the Kazakhstan steppes about 50 miles northeast of Arkelik. Again, we're continuing to receive video from the area of the landing site 50 miles north of the small town of Arkelik in the midst of Kazakhstan. As ground crews begin their work to open the hatches and extricate the Expedition 13 crew and visiting spaceflight participant Anousheh Ansari. That mission concluding this evening, Houston time at 8:13 p.m. Central Time. After 6 months aboard the International Space Station, that mission included the arrival of 2 space shuttle missions, the resumption of construction of the orbiting laboratory, and restoration of the space station's crew to the 3-member level. Russian recovery forces and NASA officials arrived at the landing site shortly after it touched down. The crew will spend about 3 weeks in Star City near Moscow for debriefings and medical examinations. They're tentatively scheduled to return to Houston for additional medical exams and debriefings on October the 19th. During their mission, which was launched on March the 29th, Vinogradov and Williams were joined by Thomas Reiter, a European Space Agency astronaut from Germany, who became the first non-Russian, non-U.S. long-duration space station crew member. He remains on board with Expedition 14 Commander Michael Lopez Alegria and Flight Engineer Mikhail Turin. He'll stay on board until December, when his replacement
Я постою у вас.
How do you read me? One, two, three, do you have comm? How many minutes do we have for the evacuation? Yes, they're looking fine in there. We're just going to cut through some stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do we have comm check? Yes, I'm already here. We're going to start evacuation right now. Yes, I copy. How do you read me? Pavel, how do you read me? Yes, we're getting them out. Andrei, help. Is everything okay? How do you read me?
This is Mission Control Houston, now receiving television pictures as the crew members from the Soyuz are extricated by the Russian recovery forces. Commander Pavel Vinogradov first out of the spacecraft. And we have an update now from our man on the scene on the Kazakh steppes. We'll hear now a report from Rob Navius at the landing site.
Well, good evening, Kelly. It's a gorgeous morning here in the barren steppe of south-central Kazakhstan, just northeast of Arkalyk, where, as you can see, I believe, from the video phone transmissions, the crew is out of the Soyuz TMA-8, which landed on its side. It took just a few minutes to extract the crew. They're all in very good shape. First out was Pavel Vinogradov, the commander. He was followed by Anousheh Ansari, who was quickly handed a bouquet of flowers by the search and recovery teams here in Kazakhstan. Last out, NASA science officer and flight engineer Jeff Williams, who was carried to his reclining chair, as were the others. He was handed an apple. He has been talking by satellite phone to his wife, Anna Marie, who is at the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center in Star City, and who will greet her husband later today upon the crew's return to Chkalovsky Air Base, just outside of Moscow. Williams said he provided a running narrative for Ansari on every bump and bang, as he put it, all the way down through the entry phase of today's landing, which was smooth and successful. Ansari also in very good shape. All three crew members look hale and hearty as the rosy color of daybreak has now turned into a rising sun upon the end of Expedition 13 and for Anousheh Ansari her 11 days in space. Kelly?
Thanks for that on-the-scene report, Rob. As you say, we are receiving downlink television, or excuse me, live television from the Kazakh steppes as the crew is inspected by doctors. They'll be going through some preliminary medical examinations as they are getting used to the return of gravity after 6 months on orbit.
Yeah, they were asking me, Anousheh was asking me how long it's going to be. And I said, no, not much longer, another 10 minutes or so. Who's going to take the gloves and the headset and everything? Good job, guys. Thank you.
С какой камеры идет счастливец? Как девчонка? Мою включить никто не хочет? Она молодец. ШП? Свой парень? Конечно.
How was the female crew member doing? She did a good job. She's great. She did fine.
Не понял, повтори. Еще раз повтори, не понял.
Did you feel warm over there? Yes, we were fine.
Yeah, I tried a couple times to call you again. You might have to close.
This is Mr. Troll Houston. Minor correction. These views of the crew from the Soyuz TMA-8 capsule on the ground on the Kazakhstan steppes being replayed to us about 10 minutes after the events occurred as we look at Pavel Vinogradov first and now Anousheh Ansari, the order in which they arrived outside of the spacecraft following hatch opening after the landing.
Here, step away.
Ansari receiving a bouquet of roses on the ground and as mentioned from the landing site, everyone looking hale and hearty after their voyage through the Earth's atmosphere.
An apple? Do you like an apple?
Again, the crew bid one another a fond farewell at 1:47 p.m. Central Time this afternoon as the Expedition 13 crew and Ansari made its way into the Soyuz spacecraft, closing the hatch and departing the Expedition 14 crew, which remains on board the International Space Station.
Make sure everybody steps 2 steps away. Take 2 steps away. Where's step?
Soyuz spacecraft separated from the International Space Station's docking port on the Earth-facing side of the Zarya Control Module at 4:53 p.m. Central Time. And then conducted as planned the deorbit burn at 7:23 p.m. Central. And again landing at 8:13 p.m. Central Time, about 15 minutes before official sunrise there 50 miles northeast of Arkelik on the Kazakhstan steppes. All of the landing activities went exactly as planned. The track brought them right down to very close to the planned landing site. Capsule ended up in a nominal configuration on its side. And the Expedition 13 crew's final duration unofficially marked at 182 days, 22 hours, and 43 minutes, approximately 6 months on orbit for Vinogradov and Williams. And this is Mission Control Houston. We have another update from Rob Navius on the scene at the landing site. Let's go to you now, Rob.
Right now we're sending the recording over to you. We're currently rewinding the tape. We're ready to transmit it to you. Why are you so sad?
Yeah, this is Mission Control Houston. We had a bit of technical difficulty there. We're now ready for that update from the landing site from Rob Navius. Go ahead, Rob.
Kelly, good evening once again on a very clear, calm morning. The sun is now up and the crew is inside this portable inflatable medical tent about 100 meters away from the Soyuz TMA-8 capsule, having been carried in their reclining chairs, as is the custom, into the tent where they will be assisted out of their Sokol launch and entry suits and into more comfortable clothing. Some preliminary medical tests, routine medical tests will be conducted, and the crew then will be brought into a series of all-terrain vehicles to be transported a short distance to their respective helicopters for about a 1 hour, 45-minute flight back to Kustanay, Kazakhstan, in the northwest corner of Kazakhstan near the Russian-Kazakh border. There they will be greeted by Kazakh officials and a welcoming ceremony and a short press conference before boarding the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft for a 2.5-hour flight back to Chkalovsky Air Base outside Moscow and a reunion with their families. All three crew members in excellent shape. Jeff Williams smiling broadly, eating an apple, saying it was the ride of a lifetime. Back to you, Kelly.
Thanks for the update, Rob. And as you say, we're getting some additional replays of the video phone that was recorded a little bit earlier today, showing the three spacefarers clasping hands and congratulating one another and saying thank you to their mission control colleagues that have supported the 6-month mission for Vinogradov and Williams and the 10-day mission of Ansari. Here in the Mission Control Center in Houston, flight controllers led by Flight Director Ginger Carrick congratulated one another and also had a visit from visiting Russian flight controllers who are doing tours of duty here at the Houston Control Center. Came in and congratulated all the folks here in Mission Control on their success of the expedition and the success of today's deorbit and landing activities.
I'm going to...
In addition to the support here in the Houston Control Center, the Houston Support Group followed along with the deorbit and landing activities from the Mission Control Center in Korolev outside of Moscow with their Russian counterparts, and they have now signed off after completion of this portion of the day's activities and will now go home and get some rest and get ready for their next shift in support of the Expedition 14 mission as that Expedition 14 crew of Mike Lopez Alegria Mikael Turin and Thomas Reiter continue their work aboard the International Space Station outpost, looking ahead toward more work with the electron oxygen generating system and a complete update of the computer systems on board the space station in the coming days. Again, this is a replay of tapes that were recorded earlier at the landing site. The 3 crew members have entered that portable inflatable medical tent so they can take off their so-called re-entry suits and get into more comfortable clothing and undergo the preliminary routine medical examinations following every landing. They will be later transported by several means, all-terrain vehicles and aircraft, over to the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center in nearby Star City, Russia, where they will undergo about 3 weeks worth of debriefings and additional medical examinations before returning here to Houston. Again, that return scheduled for in the neighborhood of October the 19th.
Ну все, они тогда... Ну, они на фуршете. Да. А я его это... Сделано все. У них там традиция. У меня городской это... Он это... Откуда идет изображение? С моей камеры или с твоей?
Let's double check whose camera is providing the video right now. Is my camera video on live?
Какие у вас будут вопросы? Как вам понравился полет на корабле «Союз»?
How did you like the flight on the Soyuz vehicle?
The flight was excellent. It was as predicted, as I had heard. The flight would go. Everything was nominal. It's a great vehicle. It was a great space station.
Какие первые ощущения после посадки?
What are your
feeling was after you get landed? I looked out my window and I saw the grass, and I knew we were on the earth. It felt good. It wasn't too difficult. I expected actually more of a bump on the ground. But it wasn't that at all. The ground rolled on our side.
Ну и как? Будете какие-то вопросы? Мы, собственно, не преследовали. Может быть, какие-то передачи.
Когда вы летели, нам было Well, the flight was great. It was everything I had hoped for. 6 months on orbit, but Pasha is a great commander, great crewmate. We had a good first half. It was wonderful to get some else on board. Halfway through, it was great to see 2 shuttle crews up there and to get the shuttle flying again, to continue the assembly. And then a week ago, after we got rid of the shuttle crew, sent them back to Earth, we had Expedition 14 and then Nusha show up.
and had a great week with them. Really appreciate all the work that folks on the ground did to prepare us and also support the flight in Moscow, and Houston, and Huntsville, and now Munich. Everybody did a great job. Really appreciate on a personal level the support that friends and family have given to my family and to me. It was a joy to bring the experience to a lot of people, and that was my objective. Hopefully, join us on the journey.
Отошли сейчас. Подожди, не понял, сейчас, секунду. Так, не дай. Звук идет на все. Дорогу,
Please make way, make way.
Микрофон убери.
Дайте ему с этой стороны.
Brought me home safe and sound. I wanted to stay just and now have to push you back.
А ну потеряли наши. Кто дал? Кто дал?
So this is a view of the capsule post-separation just at EI, and after a little while you'll be able to discern three distinct objects there. The front one, and the one on the left as you're looking at it, is the Spuskymi apparat, the descent module, and the other two are the habitation module and the instrument compartment. And soon it will be easy to tell which one you want to be in.
This is Mission Control Houston receiving some downlink video recorded on board the space station of the Soyuz's descent, with descriptions by the new commander aboard the outpost, Mike Lopez Alegria.
Tomas actually shot this video, and it's on an HD camera. I don't think it'll make any difference when it comes down via KU band, but the tape ought to be higher definition than most of the stuff we have. You can start to see the two objects trailing now start to burn and break up.
Yeah, that's a great shot. We can see those two trailing objects are really putting off a lot of pieces.
This is occurring right around sunrise, too, so you'll start to see the colors change. And I think Tomas is playing a little bit with the camera settings, trying to get it to behave, but it's pretty spectacular results. That's it.
Okay, LA, follow up on the CMG story. CMG-3 had some high currents and high vibes, and we're going to take that out of the steering law. We've got 1, 2, and 4 ready, and we're just about going to transition back to U.S. segment CMG control.
Roger, Hal, I'm taking a look at the display. Are the signatures that they saw on CMG-3 of any long-term concern?
LA, CMG-3 has had some issues like this before. We don't have any long-term concerns about it. Right now, it looks like it's back in the box and is performing nominally.
Okay, copy that. For some reason, looking at the display, I show CMG-2 is not powered. Is that an anomalous display?
Yeah, there's a spin against that display with the power. The corners are not displaying properly, so if you drill down a few displays, you'll see 2's okay.
Okay, thanks.
This is Mission Control Houston, as we now are back to live views from the landing site in Kazakhstan. Mike Lopez Alegria speaking with spacecraft communicator Hal Getzelman here on the ground regarding the current configuration of the control moment gyroscopes that are used to maintain the orientation or attitude of the International Space Station in its 220-mile high orbit. One of the four control moment gyroscopes exhibited some high power spikes. That's not unusual, as we are in these highly dynamic changes from Russian thruster control of the vehicle back to the control moment gyroscopes on the U.S. segment. They've temporarily taken CMG number 3 out of the logic set, but are seeing it in a much better configuration as the spacecraft communicator informed Lopez Alegria on orbit. Crew obviously had quite a fireworks show as they watched the Soyuz spacecraft separate following its undocking from the International Space Station earlier today and begin its descent through the atmosphere. They shot some video on a high-definition television camera that's now on orbit, delivered aboard the Space Shuttle Atlantis on STS-115, and downlinked that in standard video format. It showed very distinct plasma trails of the 3 different sections of the Soyuz spacecraft. Again, the Expedition 13 crew made a safe landing at the appointed site to about 50 miles northeast of the small town of Arkelik in the Kazakh steppes. Landing at 8:13 p.m. Central Time, exactly on schedule, following a completely nominal undocking and descent through the atmosphere. The crew wrapping up a total of 182 days, 22 hours, and 43 minutes unofficially. In addition, Mike Lopez Alegria downlinked some spectacular video. We have a replay of that video that we can show you in its entirety now. We'll roll it for you right now.
So post-separation, just at EI, and after a little while you'll be able to discern 3 distinct objects there. The front one, the one on the left as you're looking at it, is the Spustkami apparat, the descent module, and the other 2 are the habitation module and the instrument compartment. And soon it will be easy to tell which one you want to be in. Thomas actually shot this video, and it's on an HD camera. I don't think it'll make any difference when it comes down via KU-band, but the tape ought to be higher definition than most of the stuff we have. You can start to see the 2 objects trailing now start to burn and break up. This is occurring right around sunrise too, so you'll start to see the colors change. And I think Tomas is playing a little bit with the camera settings, trying to get it to behave, but it's pretty spectacular results.
How would you read me?
And this is Mission Control Houston. Now our first views of flight engineer and NASA International Space Station science officer Jeff Williams from the Expedition 13 crew as he munches on an apple along with his commander, Popov Vinogradov. At the landing site about 50 miles northeast of Arkelik on the Kazakh steppes, a barren landscape, very chilly temperatures.
You like the Soyuz flight?
How did you like it?
The flight was excellent. It was as predicted, as I had heard the flight would go. Everything was nominal. It's a great vehicle. So it's a great spacecraft.
What are your first impressions after landing?
I looked out my window and I saw the grass, and I knew we were on the Earth. It felt good. It wasn't too difficult. I expected actually more of a bump on the ground, but it wasn't bad at all. Hit the ground, rolled over on our side, looked out.
Any further questions? Do you want to add something?
Well, the flight was great. It was everything I had hoped for. 6 months on orbit. Pasha was a great commander, great crewmate. We had a good first half. It was wonderful to get Tomas on board with us. Halfway through, it was great to see 2 shuttle crews up there and to get the shuttle flying again, to continue the assembly. And then a week ago, after we got rid of the shuttle crew, sent them back to Earth, we had Expedition 14 and Anusha show up, and had a great week with them. Really appreciate all the work that the folks on the ground did to prepare us and also to support us in flight in Moscow, in Houston, in Huntsville, and now Munich. Everybody did a great job. Really appreciate that on a personal level, the support that friends and family have given to my family and to me. It was a joy to bring the experience to a lot of people, and that was my objective. Hopefully, we're able to join us on the journey.
I would like to say thank you. Thank you to everyone in mission control centers who were supporting our flight. We're still working with increment 14 now. I don't think we would have been able to do anything, to achieve anything really without support from MCC Moscow, MCC Houston, from Huntsville. We're just the very top of a huge iceberg. Thank you very much. We enjoyed working with everyone.
Паша, подходи ко мне, работай с камерой, я пошел на перегон. Паша, подойди ко мне, работай с камерой, я пошел на перегон. Дорогу! Заметно! Шавара дома! Камеру, а микрофон убери. Брал. Дайте мальчик. Дайте ему с этой стороны. Меня нашли.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, we're happy to have you in this Kustanai area. We'd like to congratulate our heroes with a successful landing. We wish them good luck and happiness. Kazakhstan is a unique country where to get from one town to another, you have to use a space vehicle. See, the transportation system and the country is developing very well. Again, good luck to you, well-being, and as is customary, let me give you some gifts and mementos.
Первое она получила. Потом посмотрим. Как хан, Паша. Ну, он и есть хан же, он оттуда вернулся. Удачи вам. Ну и командир есть командир. Символ власти. Помогите, пожалуйста. О! Это больно.
Congratulations on your return. And can I ask the first question? Pasha, did you have something like this whip? Did you have to use it? No. No, we had excellent crews. Wonderful in this flight. It so happened that Jeff and I received several crews, and let me tell you, it was very nice to work with all of the crews, the orbiter crews and our replacements. Very friendly, very nice, and very helpful and supportive of each other. And it was a real pleasure to fly. And today our guys stayed behind. And when we were saying goodbyes, it was a sad moment for Jeff and I, because we were not just leaving any international space station. It was our home, or at least was a home for 6 months. I am very happy with this flight, and I liked it very much. We saw a lot of interesting things and did a lot of interesting things together with Jeff. And I think that this is one of my best flights, one of my 2 best flights. Jeffrey, you put the ISS together. It's 90% complete. Why is it empty? If 2 people fly, that's not going to be efficient or effective. How many would you like to see up there? How many do you think should be up there?
Well, the plan, of course, is to increase the ISS to a crew size of 6. And I am confident that we will get there. Of course, the last few years we had to recover from the shuttle accident and fix those problems and get the shuttle flying again. And Pablo and I had the privilege of being on board during that time, and as he says, receiving a couple of shuttle crews, which were very successful. We've resumed the assembly of the space station. The assembly will continue now and enable us to get the crew size up to a crew of 6. And we plan on to utilize the space station as it was intended, not as an end in itself, but as a means to fulfill the space exploration beyond, back to the moon and on to Mars.
Mrs. Ansari, you are the most famous woman on the planet today. Was that what you were looking for? Is that a question?
Famous, and I certainly don't feel like I'm the most famous woman in the world. There are more accomplished women all over the place, and they're very experienced and great astronauts and cosmonauts who've already flown to space. But I did this because it was a dream that I wanted to fulfill, and also to inspire all the young women and girls around the world to make sure that they pursue their own dreams as well.
You have a lot of impressions from your space flight. Which is the brightest?
Well, maybe I can say two. One was seeing Earth for the first time. It's a long-lasting impression that I can never forget. The other most important thing that happened to me as part of this trip is the great friendships that I've made throughout this time with the people who helped me prepare for this trip at the Cosmonaut Training Center in Star City, and also all the great cosmonauts and astronauts I met.
Anushe, did the men treat you right on board? Did they slap your hand?
More than okay, they treated me like a princess up there.
Я себя чувствовала настоящей принцессой на станции.
Would you like to go again?
Absolutely, I'll go tomorrow if they will let me.
Без вопросов, завтра бы полетела.
I didn't want to come back, but they told me I have to come back. They promised my husband that they will get me back safe.
The next thing would be to send them up together, the both of them, her and Hamid.
I just فقط میخوام بگم متشکرم برای همه مهربونیشون، برای همه پیغام‌های خوبشون و امیدوارم که بتونم جوابای همه پیغامایی که برام گذاشتن بدم. مرسی.
Could you translate that for us?
I just said that I thank everyone for all their wonderful messages that they've been writing to me, and I hope to be able to return all those messages and answer them. Thank you.
Спасибо. Спасибо. Давайте мы расступимся, чтобы они не обходили по прямой.
sunrise landing in Kazakhstan. Describe your impressions, your first impressions as the hatch to the Soyuz was open, what you smelled, what you saw, your first thoughts back on Earth.
Well, the hatch opened up and it was good to see a lot of smiling faces, excited people outside. Right there when we landed, we knew that they were going to be there because we had talked to them under parachute, maybe even before getting under parachute, so that we knew that they had seen us. So it was good to see everybody there. Like I said, a lot of faces were familiar from previous work at GCTC and Energia. I remember smelling right away the exhaust from the soft landing jets, because those fumes had come back in through the ventilation system. But then that quickly dissipated, and of course we were assisted in getting out of the capsule one at a time. I was the last one out, so I just sat there and relaxed while the other two got out and watched how they climbed through the hatch. It's a very small capsule, so that was definitely an impression getting out. It's difficult to get out of there. I was on the bottom, so it took a little more effort. When we finally got out through the hatch, they carried us to those recliners, I guess, and wrapped us up to keep us warm. I remember smelling, of course, the smell of the fresh air and vegetation, something that I was looking forward to and that I had missed after 6 months on orbit. Also, one of the things I missed on orbit was quiet. And even though there were a lot of people around us, after we got settled into our seats, and there was a lot of talking going on, in the background there wasn't fans and pumps going. Instead, in the background there was the quiet of being out in the open spaces in Kazakhstan. So those were some of my first impressions.
When you undocked and backed away from the station, the newly expanded station that had been your home for 6 months, what were your thoughts as you backed away, bidding it farewell for the last time?
It was very interesting. Up until that point, even though we were very busy getting ready to get in the Soyuz and close the hatch and all the things to prepare to do that and to leave, I kept thinking, it doesn't seem like we're leaving. It seems like we're just doing another operation, and tomorrow we'll wake up and still be there. And it wasn't until we backed away, until we actually undocked, the hooks open, and we felt the push of the springs, and I could see out my window the solar rays of the Progress and the space station on the Russian segment drifting away. And that's when it really struck that we were in fact leaving, and soon we would be home. At that point, I considered home Earth, anywhere on Earth.
You and your crewmates struck a brilliant plasma trail as you streaked across the pre-dawn skies of Kazakhstan heading towards sunrise. What were some of your most vivid impressions of the entry and landing phase?
Well, that's easy to answer because I focused on them in part to observe the sequence of the entry and the dynamics and all that, but also because to make sure that Anusha was prepared for all of especially the more dramatic parts. I was trying to give a narration as we went through it and give her a heads up seconds before each event. So, and that included the initial glow as we hit entry interface, and then the glow getting brighter and brighter and brighter, and the G starting to build up, and then the thermal shield starting to ablate, where pieces of it were starting to come off, and you could see the sparks flying by the window. And through all that, the glow continuing to get brighter and brighter. And I actually saw some film of, it must have come off the thermal shield, or definitely outside the capsule, some sheets of this film flying by the window. They were going slow enough where you could recognize what they were. The G's built up. We peaked out at 4 G's as predicted. And then, of course, shortly after the G's come down, the initial braking parachute opens. And it gets a little bit more violent at that time. You definitely feel the braking power of the parachute. You're doing a lot of shaking, a lot of dynamics in all axes, which obviously gets the vestibular system spinning a little bit more. And then the risers of the parachute go from offset center to center. So there's a little bit of swinging, and then you're swinging under the parachute pretty violently, and then things start settling out. And then we watched the altitude just come down, and we had an altitude meter on the displays, and I also had an altimeter on my wrist. And by that time we had communications with the rescue forces, and they had seen us, they were watching us come down, you were watching us come down under parachute, calling out our altitude, confirming that we were seeing good data. So that gave us the opportunity to anticipate touchdown, which in itself is another major event. When the soft landing jets go off, you hit the ground. Our impressions, I think we talked afterwards, all three of us thought that the landing wasn't quite as hard as we expected, talking to folks that have gone before us. So the conditions that we were under today perhaps made the landing a little bit softer. We definitely felt the initial hit, and then we rolled to the side, came to a halt shortly after that, and I looked out my window, which was right here on the left side of my face, and I saw dry grass right there, just 8 inches away, so I knew we were on Earth. And then within a few minutes, we could hear the helicopters coming in and landing close by, and then people getting off the helicopters, and you could hear people talking to us on the radio, and then they were coming up outside, and I saw a face in the window waving. Of course, waved back. Pretty soon another one across in the other window. So we knew we were home then.
Jeff, there are many who say that your expedition was perhaps the most important ever, in the sense that you made the transition during your 6 months in space from other expeditions that had been a caretaker of the station systems, keeping it assembly ready, to the resumption of assembly and operations and expansion. How do you view the legacy of Expedition 13? It was busy and very busy down the stretch, but how do you assess its impact and what you would have written in the history books for your 6 months in space?
Well, first, I would say it was throughout the entire thing, especially as it unfolded, pretty much as planned before we launched. I was overwhelmed with the honor to be part of it. And you're right, Pablo and I started out on our own for the better part of 3 months, continuing as crews before us had gone over the previous several years, keeping the station up and running, operational, waiting for the resumption of assembly. And then the STS-121 came, which was a very successful test flight that allowed the shuttle to get flying again and get on with assembly. It was great to have a visiting crew come see us and spend those days with us. Very busy time, but we took the time to enjoy it as a joint crew. And they also brought Tomas Ryder to bring the crew size back to 3, which was a significant milestone, as you know, because it puts us back on the path to getting fully operational, back to assembly. Next major event, of course, with Joint Ops was the next shuttle coming, which was the resumption of assembly, 12A, and the STS-115 crew, another great joint mission, which went near perfect. Which reminds me, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude, too, for how well the expedition went, largely in part with the great folks that did all the good work on the ground in all the control centers, you know, from the varying countries, bringing, obviously to include Houston, Huntsville, and Moscow, but also bringing Munich online, adding another set of international partners, if you will, as we continue in the assembly. So I think the legacy of 13, not because of us, but just because of the progress made by the entire international team is significant and is historic. And it was an honor to be part of it.
And in that vein, as you said, not long ago you had 4 nationalities on board the station. What do you think this past few weeks in particular, but certainly for the 6 months you were in orbit, what do you think the station has represented, both from a technological as well as a symbolic means, to people who view this type of cooperation in space?
Well, obviously there's a lot of bad things going on in the world. Difficult things, difficult issues that we as in different cultures have to deal with, and we all have it in our history. And I think the International Space Station program is a beacon to the world, if you will, in the cooperation that we enjoy among so many countries. And over the last several years, preparing for this flight, and even before my previous flight, preparing for it, I was overwhelmed with the irony of history. Looking back in the beginning of my military career, my first assignment on the Fulda Gap in what used to be West Germany, you know, during the height of the Cold War. And here we are now, all working together in this international partnership. And again, I think it can be a beacon to the world. And I know at the working level, we enjoy full cooperation and full camaraderie and a full sense of being part of a team and doing this together. I think in spite of any political history or other kind of history, especially in space, when you fly together in space, you develop bonds like you seldom see anywhere else.
Jeff, welcome home. Congratulations.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much. It's great to be home.
In der Mitte der Welt. Hinter mir Myriaden von Einzellern. Vor mir Myriaden von Sternen.
А ничего, салам алейкум. Салам алейкум.
Special for you from Russian restaurant.
Ребята, в прошлый раз ели себя в молодой игре.
Разотри его в руках, понюхай.
Вкусно, да?
Это для казахов самая главная трава. Полынь.
Ну давай.
Вот, держи. Попробуй.
Все.
Это попробуй рыбу. Это жерик. Не, путем. Тебя как зовут?
Тёнов.
Есть русский водка, это казахстанский водка.
Казахстанский водка.
Да, да. Все, город нравится наш.
А?
Город нравится. Вдоль берега.
Personally, I come from two different worlds.
In mir drin sind zwei Welten, der Westen und der Osten.
I grew up in Norway.
Ich bin in Norwegen aufgewachsen.
When I was young, I discovered
Als Kind stellte ich fest, dass wir immer noch viele Verwandte in Russland hatten.
So when I started traveling,
Mit meinen Reisen in die ehemalige Sowjetunion wollte ich auch versuchen zu verstehen, was diese andere Seite in mir bedeutet.
Jeskasgan is full of monuments.
Jeskasgan ist voller Monumente zur Glorie der sowjetischen Raumfahrt.
One of the most impressive of these is this MiG fighter plane.
Am imposantesten ist diese MiG, die eine Sojus-Rakete umkreist.
Spaceflight was one of the...
Die Raumfahrt war wohl die größte Errungenschaft der Sowjetunion. Gagarin, Sputnik.
Das
war der Ruhm dieser Nation. Und nach dem Kollaps der Sowjetunion waren viele Menschen auf unterschiedlichste Art verloren.
Ich
begann an verschiedensten Orten zu leben. Manchmal blieb ich lange, bis zu einem Jahr. Mich interessierten diese kleinen Geschichten, die Isolation dieser entlegenen Enklaven.
О предстоящем путешествии на Международную космическую станцию в репортаже нашего специального корреспондента Григория Беденко.
Космический туризм становится полноценным явлением человеческой жизни. В ближайшие дни американская предпринимательница Анил Шанцари докажет миру, что теперь частные полеты в космос за свой счет доступны не только сильной половине человечества. Но пока, к сожалению, это прерогатива лишь очень богатых землян. Если у вас хорошее здоровье и есть свободные $20 миллионов, вы можете совершить полет за пределы земной атмосферы на корабле «Союз». И рабочую локацию на российских кораблях «Союз» за всю эту историю летало не так уж и много женщин. Еще ни разу представительницы слабого пола не готовили к полету в космос столь быстро. Полет Ансари на МТС – это не просто причуда богатого человека. Анюша хочет сделать космический туризм доступным для всех, вкладывая деньги в этот новый и весьма перспективный бизнес. Госпожа Ансари является главным спонсором фонда «Ансари X-Prize». Это денежная премия в размере $10 миллионов за первую неправительственную организацию, которая сможет запустить эксплуатируемый корабль. Обязательно время планирует производить российских предприятий и российские орбитальные аппараты под названием «Эксплорер». Полет у них будет подстраховать дешевле, чем на «Союз».
Die Sowjets suchten 1955 einen Standort für ihre Raketenbasis. Abgeschirmt vor fremden Blicken bauten sie buchstäblich mitten im Nichts. Während des Kalten Krieges war dies einer der geheimsten Orte unseres Planeten. Ich war noch klein, als ich zum ersten Mal etwas über diesen Ort las. Kosmodrom Baikonur, das älteste und weltgrößte Raumfahrtzentrum. Ein Riesenareal. 100.000 Menschen lebten hier. Jede Woche startete mindestens eine Rakete.
Ich war immer besessen von der Idee, eines Tages ins All zu fliegen. Ich hatte sogar einen Plan B. Falls ich sterbe, ohne im Weltraum gewesen zu sein, sollte mein Mann meine Asche in den Weltraum senden. Zumindest ein bisschen davon. Ich war wild entschlossen, einen Weg zu finden. Aber noch hatte ich keine Ahnung, wie. Wenn man etwas wirklich will und nicht zögert, darüber zu reden, dann trifft man die richtigen Menschen. Das Universum hilft, deinen Traum zu verwirklichen.
Als Kind las ich alles über Baikonur. Sputnik. Dieses leise Piep, 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 das die Welt schockierte. Laika, der erste Hund, der ins All gebeamt wurde.
first man in space.
Der erste Mensch im All.
The first woman in space.
Die erste Frau im All.
Это машина «Урал», первый компьютер нашего космодрома Байконур. В 1957 году этот компьютер был создан. Думал со скоростью 100 операций в секунду. 14 поколений вот этих машин простояли до 80-х годов на дежурстве нашего вычислительного центра, нашего космодрома Байконур.
Тот, кто прямо с детства дружит с небесами, не предаст вовек свою первую мечту. Лишь одна у летчика мечта — высота. Высота, самая высокая мечта. Высота, высота. Обойму тебя я крепкими руками, а тебе я в небе скажу. Я тебя скину, в небе для тебя останусь. Если бы ты знал, если бы ты знал, лишь одна летчика мечта.
It's quite sad, really, what happened to the Buran.
Traurig, was mit der Buran passiert ist, der sowjetischen Raumfähre, nachdem Gortschow das Programm Ende der 80er Jahre eingestellt hat. Was gedacht war als Konkurrenz zum US Space Shuttle. Zehntausende Arbeiter und Ingenieure verloren ihre Arbeit. 40% der Bevölkerung musste Baikonur verlassen. Roskosmos, die russische Raumfahrtbehörde, suchte nach neuen Finanzquellen. Den dritten Sitz in der Kapsel einem Milliardär aus dem Westen zu verkaufen, deckt fast die Hälfte der Kosten eines Sojus-Starts.
Ich möchte andere inspirieren. Ich möchte Menschen inspirieren, vor allem Kinder, die Veränderung zu sein. Wie Mahatma Gandhi sagte, sei du selbst die Veränderung, die du dir wünschst für diese Welt. Ich bin in Iran geboren und lebte dort, bis ich 16 war. Ich liebte die Sommernächte. Da schlief ich auf dem Balkon im Haus meiner Großeltern und konnte den wunderbaren Sternenhimmel ansehen. Das Weltall faszinierte mich. Die Geheimnisse, die es birgt. Ich sagte zu meinen Eltern, eines Tages fliege ich ins All. Sie wollten mich nicht entmutigen, dachten, das sei ein Kindheitstraum, der vorübergehen würde. Aber etwa 35 Jahre später rief ich meine Eltern an und sagte, wisst ihr was?
Guess what?
Так вот, в космос перестали быть сферой влияния исключительно профессионалов. Частный или туристический, как его официально называют, полет богатой американки Анисы Аркани на МКС показал, что теперь подобные путешествия доступны любому человеку.
Die Art, wie russische Ingenieure arbeiten, hat mich immer fasziniert. Diese clevere Mischung aus Low-Tech und Routine. Wahrscheinlich ist es eine der besten Raketen, die je gebaut wurde und eine der zuverlässigsten. Das sowjetische Raumfahrtprogramm symbolisiert so sehr den Ehrgeiz, die Stärke und die Macht der Sowjetunion. Selbst wenn man Dissident war oder das politische System hasste, war man doch Teil von etwas ganz Großem.
White bubble around you.
It's a very important day here in the Baikonur space facility in Kazakhstan as the Soyuz TMA-9 spacecraft atop of a booster being transported. Еще заново?
Ракета идет 3 км в час, тебе говорит, ты уже не...
Так я тоже иду.
Я понимаю, что замерз. Штатив вот здесь, потому что мы дальше не пойдем, потому что дальше...
Давай еще раз.
Ну вот, в принципе, если... Вот как сейчас.
The crew is proceeding with the last preparations and tests. The first female space tourist, Anusha Ansari, who paid some $20 million for this little pleasure and little luxury to go on board of the ISS.
It's a very simple thing.
Es ist ganz einfach. Was rauffliegt, kommt auch wieder runter. Darum schießen die Amerikaner zum Beispiel ihre Raketen aus Florida ab. Denn von jeder Rakete gelangt nur die Spitze in die Umlaufbahn. Der Rest der Raketenstufen, 20 Meter lang, fällt zurück auf die Erde. In Florida fallen sie in den Atlantik. Die Sowjets hingegen, die ihr Raumfahrtprogramm so geheim wie möglich halten wollten, wählten eine abgeschiedene Gegend in Kasachstan für ihr Raumfahrtzentrum. Baikonur, das Tausende von Meilen von irgendeiner Küste entfernt ist. Mit dem Ergebnis, dass ihre Raketen, die riesigen Raketenstufen, nicht in einen Ozean fallen, sondern zurück auf die Erde. Und Kasachen aus dieser Gegend fingen heimlich an, den Raketenschrott aufzusammeln. Ich war der erste und einzige Fotograf, dem es gelungen ist, die Schrotthändler bei der Arbeit zu fotografieren.
Все фотографируют, каждый на своей двери. Я когда полетел крайний раз, то не было где, я так устал. Они все разные.
Все хорошо, спасибо. Сюда, пожалуйста.
Manchmal werde ich kritisiert, weil ich so viel Geld ausgebe für einen Traum. Aber was darf ein Traum kosten? Ist er ein Monatsgehalt wert oder 2? Lohnt es sich, einen Arm zu verlieren oder dafür zu sterben? Ich würde es auch machen, wenn es eine Reise ohne Rückkehr wäre, wenn ich mein Leben verlieren würde. Ich bin bereit, jeden Preis zu zahlen, um ins All zu fliegen.
They're all here. My family praying for me.
Meine ganze Familie ist hier und betet, dass ich heil zurückkehre.
And that means so much.
Und das bedeutet mir sehr viel.
I'm ready for
Ich bin bereit für meinen Flug.
Я человек, я посредине мира. За мною мириады восход, передо мною мириады звезд. Я между ними любовью свой рост. Два берега, связующие море. Два космоса соединивший мост. И, Боже мой, какой твой мотылек, как девушка с мертвью надо мной, как из золотого щелка лоскуток. Готов?
Шумик никто не был. За благополучное завершение нашей работы. Все нормально будет. Чтобы хорошо доехали, без происшествий. И вернуться домой.
Горько.
Горько?
Ну, слишком.
Мало не попал, да? Первый полчаса бы молчал, потом привел.
Совсем?
А что, никто не вылазит?
Я не знаю, что. Что-то будете газ ставить?
Яйца жарить или что будем?
Да, дядя, вылез. А, совсем, или можно там колбасу, сыр, что есть?
Ебучка, блядь. Что за хуйня?
Димку не видать там? В машине сидит, трет, все. Чистит, трет, чистит. Первая пошла. Большая. За столом не курят.
Кто пришел?
Я что? Дарина.
Нет. Что после пива вчерашнего тяжело. Голова болит. Да? Что так много? Банки не, банки. Нет, так нормально, только такой кинофильм смотрел.
Будешь посадить?
Удачный денек. Ты заебался стоять?
Тебя снимают.
А?
Тебя снимают.
Не говори, блин. Нам говорят, типа, пошел. Стрел пошел. Во. Вот, раз. Вторая пошла. 3, 4. Вот, раз. Вон упала одна.
Вот как раз где мы были.
Что-то она быстро упала.
Вон одна летит. Вон летит, вон. Все, вон.
Вон дым пошла. Вон он.
Вот это последний упал, который.
Вот это, сгоревший вот это.
Это тот как раз район, где мы ночевали.
Нет. Да. Напротив него.
Где мы ночевали, как раз. Вон пошел, вон дым. Вон второй.
Вот. Это недалеко от нас упало. Метров 10 будет напрямую.
Вот морковка.
Командир доложил, что есть подключение двигателя. Дальность 570 метров, скорость около 2 метров в секунду. Выполняют разворот по крену. Маневр прошел штатно. Закончился облет. Идет гашение скорости, скорость 0,4. Десять метров до станции, скорость 0,18. Есть касание, есть механический захват.
Так, видим, Миша Тюрина.
Паш, ты там Анюшу аккуратненько, слышишь?
Мы вас всех от всей души поздравляем с воссоединением.
They come down, boom, as a piece of rocket.
Die Dinge crashen auf die Erde. Nahezu intakt. Mit allen Triebwerken, allen Verkabelungen. Wenn man nah dran ist, stinkt es. Es müssen große Mengen chemischer Rückstände darin sein. Das Erste, was sie aus der Sojus ausbauen, ist ein schüsselartiges Ding, das ein Tank oder so gewesen sein muss. Ein perfektes Gefäß, das sie als Kochtopf benutzen für den Rest der 3 Tage in der Steppe. Diese Pfanne aus dem Triebwerk einer Rakete. Ein Raumschiff besteht aus dem besten Metall der Welt. Wertvolle Aluminiumlegierung, Titan, sehr hochwertige Materialien. Die Schrotthändler verkaufen die Raketenteile an China, wo sie Aluminiumfolie daraus machen. In einer globalisierten Welt wickelt man sein Sandwich in ein altes Raumschiff.
Hier bin ich, in der internationalen Raumstation, wo ich immer hin wollte. Ich schlafe neben diesem großen Fenster. Wenn es heißt, Zeit zum Abendessen und zu schlafen, dann machen wir das. Und dann gucke ich hinaus auf die Erde und da gibt es keine Grenzen, keine Anzeichen von Konflikten, nur totalen Frieden und Schönheit.
Шашлык? А? Шашлык? Бешпарок, я же сказал.
Schon mein 2. Tag. Ich glaub's nicht. Die Zeit geht so schnell vorbei. Mein Körper hat sich schon an die Schwerelosigkeit gewöhnt und ich fühle mich großartig. Ich lerne im All zu leben. Ich habe zum ersten Mal versucht, mir die Haare zu waschen. Es hat eine Stunde gedauert. Mischa Turin, mein Sojus-Kommandant, ist ein wunderbarer Mensch mit viel Humor. Er versprach meinem Mann, auf mich aufzupassen, damit ich heil und gesund zurückkomme. Wie mein anderer Crewkamerad Michael Lopez Alegria. Beide bleiben ein halbes Jahr an Bord der Station. Könnte ich das doch auch.
One is gaining on the other one. Number 2 now is going ahead. Here comes number 3.
дома все равно такой не приготовишь. Как здесь.
Нет, я вкусно все пригоры. И на костре, да?
Пожалуйста. Дай там все кусочки, что нам?
Нет. Чашка.
Находится.
You should send a note to Paula.
So Jeff, what did you just finish?
I finished loaf.
Loaf.
Loaf is Sudan.
How was it?
It was excellent.
Oh, very good.
Yep. I added a little bit of my special Tabasco sauce, or Tabasco soy sauce. Really puts a nice flavor in food. Where'd that long hair come from?
I'm going to do a nice vacuum job before I leave tomorrow. So I get all my hair out. Let's look here. What do we have? The famous asu. Let me see if I can demonstrate. It's a complicated matter going to the toilet in space. That's for number 1. This here is for number 2. And no explanation required. You have to be careful in those areas because I've hit those hatches and you don't want to do that. It's not fun. So I'm going quickly through the FGV for the storage area. Okay, and down to the American segment. Okay, let's see what we have here. Ooh.
Genau wie die erste Raketenstufe 50 Kilometer vor Cheskaskan runterkommt, wo wir jetzt sitzen, geschieht etwa 2000 Kilometer weiter nördlich dasselbe mit der zweiten Stufe.
Вон он, вон идет. Вот идет.
Вау!
Хвостовой отсек называется, второй ступени. Ракета-носителя «Союз».
Сейчас начнется гром.
Сейчас начнется бухать.
Взрывы слышно будет.
Четко было, горело-то.
Ну и все.
Up there in the Altai region, the rockets are falling into.
Im Altai-Gebirge fallen die Raketen in relativ dicht besiedelte Gebiete. Bauern beschweren sich, dass Teile von Raketen bei ihnen durchs Dach fliegen.
Он дрова колол и увидел, что он побежал, успел в дом забежать. Он испугался, увидел, как летело-то. Играешь.
И метра на 3, наверное, круг. Вот так вот метр на 3, от ее травы вообще не было. Вот там всегда вот такая вот трава прямо на самом косогоре. А здесь вокруг ее не было травы. Ну, конечно, это самое сначала не врубились, ничего, хватит ее. А потом-то Леша говорит, слушай, так это отлетело от ракеты. Тянь штука. Все, мы ее забросили в куст. Да пришли, да сказали ребятишкам, ребятишки ее растащили, вот нету.
Trotz der Gefahr, direkt unter der Flugbahn zu wohnen, sind die Raketen für manch ein echtes Geschenk des Himmels. Ich habe Bauern getroffen, die ihre Ackergeräte aus altem Raumschiffmetall machen. Schaufeln oder Schlitten. Die Leute reparieren ihre Dächer mit einem Stück Sojus-Rakete. Das ist ganz üblich in dieser Gegend.
Das Weltall ist unsere Zukunft. Wir sichern unsere Computer. Wir sichern alles. Aber an unsere Gattung denken wir nicht. Was passiert mit unserer Spezies, wenn auf unserem Planeten etwas schief läuft? Wir müssen einen Plan haben, wie wir wenigstens einen Teil unserer Rasse retten können.
Die Altai-Region hat eine große Artenvielfalt. Flora und Fauna gehören zu den reichsten ganz Russlands. Und darum machen sich Umweltschützer, Dorfbewohner etc. große Sorgen über die Auswirkungen dieser Raketenstarts. Das gilt vor allem für Protonraketen, die größten russischen Raketen. Sie werden mit Heptyl angetrieben, das, wie man weiß, krebserregend ist und eine tödliche Chemikalie. Wenn der Treibstoff im Weltraumschrott Gesundheitsprobleme verursacht, sollten wir das ernst nehmen. Satelliten westlicher Unternehmen werden oft aus Baikonur abgeschossen. Wenn die Menschen in Altai krank werden, sind wir alle verantwortlich.
I found this unbelievable joy in my heart that I think it will stay with me forever.
Space is open for business. Das All ist jetzt offen für Business. Der Ansari X-Preis war ein Quantensprung. Meine Familie wurde Hauptsponsorin dieses $10 Millionen Wettbewerbs.
Unde să mai ridice? Se ridică. Unde să se ridice? Da, făcut.
A luat. Se ridică prea încet, nu?
Da, nu avem forță.
After the last flight, when I just came home, Tanya, my wife, took me to the store and said,
Well, now we are home, and I'm ready to cook whatever you wish for you in home style. Let's go to the
In the evenings,
Abends, das heißt, wenn die Bodenkontrolle sagt, es ist Abend, da wir die Erde alle 90 Minuten umrunden, sieht man alle 90 Minuten einen Sonnenauf- und Sonnenuntergang.
I know this, I like it.
Wir bereiten unser Essen zu und können über das reden, was am Tag passiert ist. Es gibt so viel zu erzählen.
See, this way, all of the calories go to the outside of the can. You see from the
New diet.
Russians always love these.
Russen lieben diese romantischen, leidenschaftlichen Namen für alles.
Training center.
Das Kosmonautentrainingszentrum, versteckt in einem Wald, völlig isoliert und off-limits während des Kalten Krieges, noch heute streng bewacht und umgeben von einem Zaun. Nannten sie Zvyzdny Gorodok, Sternenstädtchen.
Here, cosmonauts are being trained for their mission.
Hier werden die Kosmonauten ausgebildet.
This highly restricted military facility.
In dieser hochgeheimen militärischen Einrichtung werden auch die Weltraumtouristen für ihre Ferien im All trainiert.
Пуск.
Space is a very harsh environment.
Das All ist ein hartes Umfeld. Es ist ein strenger Lehrer.
People who don't
Wer die
learn
Lektionen des Alls nicht lernt, wird im All nicht überleben.
not going to survive in space.
You need to help with the belts, I think.
With?
With the belts.
Yes,
Seatbelts,
I
yeah.
help you.
Okay, great, thanks. I'm fine otherwise. I need to guard this
Right.
thing very carefully.
Немножко жарко?
Было жарко. Теперь нормально. Теперь нормально. Не работает.
Это гуляш.
Гуляш.
Говядина.
Я требую много калорий.
Да.
Калории.
Калории.
Калории. Творог.
Да, любимый. С черной смородиной. По-домашнему мясо. Следующий будет икра кабачков. Яхта цыплят в белом соусе.
Вкусно. Да.
Десерт из яблок.
Christian, have you seen the movie Le Grand Bouffe? Закончил. Мы закончили.
Да.
Мы закончили.
Мы закончили.
Закончили.
Вы хотели забрать, да?
Дайте
Сейчас человек допьет, и все. И пойдет к вам.
Der Trainingsplan ist ziemlich straff und füllt den ganzen Tag aus. Von 9 Uhr morgens bis 6 Uhr abends, eins nach dem anderen. Man schafft's kaum pünktlich zu sein. Mein Leben war noch nie so geregelt. So muss es beim Militär sein. Man wacht um 7 auf, macht immer dasselbe, geht von einem Unterricht zum anderen, kommt um 6 zurück, dann Hausaufgaben. Man arbeitet bis 10:30 oder 11 und dann ist man so richtig müde und schläft gut. Das ist wunderbar.
Tausende leben im Sternenstädtchen. Viele davon sind ehemalige Kosmonauten. Alle haben sie jahrelang trainiert und gehofft, aber nicht jeder von ihnen darf ins All fliegen. Viele sehen die Erde nie von oben.
Конечно. Я могу. Я хочу.
Да.
Я знаю.
Да.
Я успеваю.
Умница. Молодец. Так и есть. Дальше, значит, идет набор высоты. Допустим, сбил самолет, и 50 градусов он уходит вниз.
Russian space program has become so obsessed.
Das russische Raumfahrtprogramm ist stark auf Kommerzialisierung aus.
Technology and knowledge are being sold off to anyone who can pay.
Technologie und Wissen verkauft man an jeden, der bezahlen kann.
Curiosity is being replaced.
Die Neugier ist dem Kalkül gewichen und einem Verlust der Würde, im billigen Geruch des Geldes.
Cheap smell of money.
Acht Tage in der Raumstation sind nichts. Das ist wie 8 Minuten. Die Zeit verging wie im Fluge. Ich kann es nicht glauben. Und ich will nicht weg. Ich möchte bleiben. Ich wollte mich irgendwo verstecken, damit sie mich nicht finden. Meine Mission geht weiter. Dies ist noch nicht das letzte Kapitel. Jetzt ist es meine Aufgabe, sicherzustellen, dass auch andere, die davon träumen, ins All zu fliegen, das eines Tages realisieren können.
Вот что представляет из себя спускаемый аппарат космического корабля МА после приземления. На вид это довольно непривлекательный сфероид. И вот теперь, когда космическое путешествие Анюши Ансари завершилось благополучно, количество потенциальных космических туристов должно резко возрасти.